What's up, guys? Welcome back to Roots and Refuge, the vlog, but not Roots and Refuge, the farm, because I am not home. I'm actually in Ohio. I made a trip up here, sort of a work retreat. I've been getting a good deal of writing done on my new book. I had to kind of step away where I could immerse, and I came up here to do that and visit my friend Matthew. You guys have met him before on my vlog. I've been enjoying their hospitality and local garden centers. I bought all these herbs at a place here locally for $3 each. Very good deal. I'm standing out here right now in Matthew's beautiful garden. I'm gonna show this to you, but not right now. Right now we're actually going on a little adventure. Now, right before I left, I showed you where Sweet Maya had just unloaded a load of windows for our new window greenhouse project. Now, we had built a reclaimed window greenhouse at our old farm in Arkansas, and now we're building another one. And basically it's gonna be a little larger, it's gonna be different, and I have this really beautiful vision for this greenhouse. I'm so excited about it. Those windows were a great find. They came from the Habitat for Humanity home store, restore. But I also want to incorporate another feature in this window greenhouse. And I was up here, I mentioned it to Matthew, and I told him I keep envisioning this window greenhouse having some stained glass panels. Now, I actually commissioned a stained glass panel from my aunt that I kind of had the intentions of putting above the door of a greenhouse, but I fell in love with it. It's got tomatoes on it. I'll put a little clip up here, and right now it's sitting at my kitchen sink window, and I'm not sure that I can bear putting it out of my house. I love it so much. I love having it there where I see it every single day of the year, but I really wanted to find some stained glass, and I've been looking, I've been checking out Facebook Marketplace, I've been checking out Craigslist, and I'm looking for just the right pieces. And we've got time, we're not starting on this project for a little while now. Well, Matthew suggested that I search up here, because Ohio is a place that is so rich in history. There are a lot of antiques, there are a lot of great finds like that. So we went on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and found what I think is probably the most perfect stained glass piece for my new greenhouse. Emailed the lady, and we're about to go pick it up. While I'm waiting for him to come out, I will show you guys this. I unboxed my Shriner's order the other day. Well, these are Matthew's. He'd already potted his up and they've started to grow. He got his before mine. I think he ordered a few weeks before me, but they may ship them based on your zone. And of course, up here is a colder zone, but look how great these look. Oh, you ready? Yeah. To get this? Matthew just pulled up here and told me, if you don't come back, I'll call 911. Little heifer, you can walk up here with me. What is even the point of bringing you if you're not gonna walk up here with me? Guys, look at this. It's got black irises on it. I'm so happy about this. I can't believe it has a black iris on it.
I know, that's real cool. Okay, I think that's good enough.
Yeah. So excited. And I was like, I asked Matthew, where is this? Because obviously I'm not familiar with this area. And he told me it was really close, and I sent them an email, didn't get a hold of him. Well, he found the same listing on Facebook Marketplace and messaged them. And now it is mine. It has black iris on it.
That's gonna be really pretty above the doorway, or wherever you put it.
Yeah, I don't know where it's gonna go, but. All right, guys, it is the last evening of my visit here in Ohio. I have been very productive and also had a really good time. I feel really good about where I'm at on my book, and I'm so excited for that project to finally be out to you guys. It's such a long process. Last time I did a lot of this earlier stuff before I'd even announced it. Now you guys know it's out because the pre-order was listed so early, but it's not gonna be released till next year. And when it is, you can remember this trip. So you saw where we went and picked up that beautiful piece of glass. Really cool. That was like an original piece of stained glass that was in that house, which I believe they said was built in 1961, and it was in a wall between two bathrooms. And I just think that it's so funny. They listed it for sale a couple of months ago, and then I happened to look it up, and I just talked about how much I had been wooed by those black irises and just got those in, and then I find the stained glass with a black iris in it. So I thought that was really cool. I have an amazing vision for this greenhouse, and of course Sweet Maya, he can build anything. And whenever I told him the vision and I told him what I wanted to do, he was just like completely game for making that happen. So I've been keeping an eye out for some different stained glass options. I'm gonna be pretty picky about it because I know exactly what I want to do, and I was really happy to come across this one because I think it's gonna tie in really well. I have been doing a good deal of writing and taking the time to be unneeded by my children, but I've also done a couple other things here with Matthew. He has a beautiful garden, and we are spending some time in it this evening, but we did something cool earlier, and I thought this is such a great resource. I want to share it with my viewers, and I got my phone out and made a couple little clips. I'm going to show you that now. So Matthew does more landscaping. Obviously I do food gardening more. I'm really learning more landscaping, but I currently don't do a lot of that stuff. I'm completely out of breath. I've been moving all these rocks, but I just think this is cool. All right, Matthew, I'm sharing your secrets. So we've just moved. What kind of rock is this?
Flagstone, I think.
Flagstone. We've just moved these different pieces. Matthew brought a measuring tape, knowing what size space he was trying to make a walkway for. And I'll show you guys what he does when we get back to the house. What did they say? This is 21 cents a pound?
Yeah.
So you come and buy this stuff for 21 cents a pound, and you just go through and find the pieces you want. He just had to go in and ask somebody to help because this one's too big for me. I can't move that one. But yeah, we just laid out this pathway, and then we'll take this back to the house, and then you like to do like mosses and like low growing grasses in between these flagstones. So it's really cool and beautiful. And this is the kind of thing that I actually didn't know you could just come by. You know, you could come lay out a walkway and buy just enough stone for a project like that. So I thought it was pretty cool. I wanted to share it. Isn't that cool? Now I want to show you where that ended up, and then also give you a little look around Matthew's garden. You ready for your garden close-up?
It's my grandmother.
All right, so let's look back here. Okay, so these are the pieces of stone which we got today. Actually, we had to get help on this one because I couldn't pick these big ones up. As you can see, he's not ready. Why don't you tell them the deal here?
So the people who have been watching my channel know I have a small mini orchard in the back, and I'm having a fence put along the back of my property line in like 3 weeks. I don't know if I've announced that to my channel. I did find out a deadline. It's going to be the week of October 12th, so I'm super excited. And there'll be a little gate here kind of where this stone is, and I'll be moving this tree, this green giant arborvitae, best, you know, hope it lives. But I'm going to be moving it down. The gate will be there, and so the path will come through the arch here and kind of lead to the mini orchard.
Yes.
And along the path, I'm going to be putting some heuchera, which will work well in full sun, some proven winners varieties, and then some serendipity alliums beside that, which are alliums very similar to these over here, which are millennium. They've dried up a little bit, but typically they have purple seed heads, which are really pretty.
So here's another little example of the beginning of a path, which this one is pretty new, isn't it? Or is this?
So yeah, this one was put in, this entire bed area was created last March.
Right.
So I actually can provide Jess a photo because I was looking at my phone just this past week and was insanely impressed with how crazy this section came together. So this used to be what I called my avocado bed because it was shaped like an avocado under the willow and had this little peninsula jut out here. And I've since transformed this whole space into a garden bed along the back of my property just within the past several weeks. So some of these plants, if you've been watching my channel, will come out. I'm going to be probably giving this butterfly bush to Jess because it would have to be moved eventually. And she can put that in her garden. We'll of course be cutting it back so she can fit it in her car. But otherwise, there's a lot of perennials here that I will probably be pulling out. To do this area cheaply last year, I went to Costco and bought some bare roots. So there's like some bare root geraniums here. And I cut those back mid-season, and I'm kind of getting tired of how perennials just don't give any interest after that first flush. So these bloomed in the spring and look great, but after that they got really brown and needed a trim back. So I have 200 shrubs on the side of my house, which we can show you. They're small quartz. I have really heavy clay soil, so I like to plant small things so I don't have to dig a big hole and risk that holding water. And I'm going to be adding a lot of evergreen interest to my garden.
So Matthew's the one who originally planted the love of roses in my heart. Maya had gotten me the orange arbor rose, the tangerine skies, that was on the gate of the garden that I had in Arkansas. And I loved it so much, and Matthew actually sent me a few David Austin roses, which you can kind of see, there was one kind of poking out there. He's got them all over his garden. And you love roses, but your big love in this garden has been hydrangeas. And we're going to come over here now. Of course, the hydrangeas have sort of peaked. The beauty of hydrangeas is they're still pretty even when they start to dry.
And you can cut these flower heads about this time because they're coloring up and turning a little brown in their pink coloration, and cut them for arrangements and dried flowers. I actually have some of my incredible hydrangea hedge, which needs to be trimmed as well. We've been under a drought for the past couple months. I have some of those still in my house from over 2 years ago,
they're beautiful,
so they last
still
a really long time.
Yeah. You should make a video about that too. You should make a video showing about, because I don't think a lot of people realize how valuable those are for like cut flowers in the dried. We watched a video on a channel, and I've been connected with Roxana Soil and Margaritas on Instagram, but I actually hadn't watched a lot of her YouTube videos. And since I've been here, I've had a little more time to do things like watch YouTube. And so Matthew and I have watched a few different videos of some people that he routinely watches. And we watched this video where Soil and Margarita, she took like dried hydrangea blossoms and made a wreath completely for free out of her garden. And I thought it was really cool, and I'll put a link down to that below. And you should also make a video about cutting hydrangea blossoms.
Yeah, so Roxana mentioned that you could use willow trees, but she didn't have willow branches for the wreath form. She didn't have a willow, so I think she said she used a spirea.
A spirea.
I have a willow.
Yeah, you do. You could make a wreath with that. You should do it. Here's all his hydrangea hedge over here on the side. These still look really pretty. Even when they're starting to dry, I mean, they're just still really lovely. And then
irrigation's coming on.
Yeah, your drip irrigation's coming on. And then all of the future shrubs here. He's got a ton of plants over here. There's the heuchera that's going to go in down in the new area. I wanted to show them where you had your path that was established up here.
Okay.
With your moss and stuff. Look at this. I think this is so magical. This has always been one of my favorite parts of your garden.
Yeah, so we put in a fountain about 3 years ago, and I decided to do this mixed-matched Irish and Scottish moss, which used to be easily found at your local big box store in a mixed-match pattern, but I wasn't able to find it last year or the year before. And so I'll probably be taking some plugs of it and moving it because it grows rather quickly. So like, for instance, this right here, at the time was a 3.5 maybe by 3.5 square, and it just grows really profusely. In winter will die back a little bit depending on how tough our winter is, and it doesn't like some of the moisture it's getting under the fountain. It's dying back, but when the fountain's turned off, it will do much better later in the year.
Isn't this so dreamy just to have moss around this rock? And did you buy this rock the same way you bought that stuff in the...
Yeah, so this initially started my natural rock paths in my garden. This was the first thing we did. There was a previous installation here when we moved into this home that was just like river rock, and it didn't have any water feature or anything. It was just kind of decorative. And so we removed all of that, and I still wanted a way to enter the front yard really easily. So I put down this rock and planted the moss in between it, which can be stepped on and walked on as well. And so it's just a great little shortcut out of the front door of the home.
Today, we went and got all of that stone. 740 pounds of stone. And I don't know exactly, they'd originally said 21 cents a pound. I think it ended up being a little less than that. For all of that that's gonna make up that whole path, it was like less than $150, which if you paid somebody to come in and do something like that would just be massively, I don't know, it would be a lot more than that. Now I have focused on my channel in the past. Obviously my main focus is growing food. My spaces are primarily food growing spaces. However, I also love a garden that invites you. I love growing beautiful things. I think that there's a lot of joy to be found in it. And something I've really gained from Matthew is, you know, not necessarily growing the beautiful things just kind of as a sideline, but also as a main point of interest in creating these beautiful spaces, because things like going and buying that rock and setting them down to make paths and planting moss in between them, that just really wasn't on my grid before. And little things like that are so romantic. It's hardscaping, and that's what we went to today, was like a hardscaping supply place. And I don't know, I just love learning things like that, and it's been really beneficial, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So what's your favorite place in your garden this year?
I think it changes throughout the season. I really love sitting up here near the fountain this part of the season when the petunias are kind of waning, but it's nice to hear the sound of the fountain. And my house the front of it faces east, so we get really hot sun in the afternoon. So sitting here in the cool shade of the house later in the evening is really just magical, and looking at all the little blooms I have out here, because I do have way more annuals in the front than I do in the back. In the back, because I'm trying to create a very like secret, beautiful evergreen getaway that is more magical than the front. I simply focused on the front because all of this existed when I moved into the house.
Yeah.
The flower beds existed, but all of the plants in my house have, other than the major trees, have been completely removed when I moved in, and all of this is brand new in the past 3 years. So you can just do a lot in very little time. The hostas that I actually have over here that you've probably seen in some of Jess's clips came from Facebook Marketplace from a woman I bought $3 starts from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So you can do a lot very cheaply. Of course, I have put a lot of money into my garden, but at the same time, if you watch my channel, you know I buy a lot of stuff very small.
And pot it up and grow it out. That's another thing that I've learned from Matthew, because and this is just probably, I don't know, sometimes I'm like, why did I think that? Do you ever look at like your processes and think, why did I think it had to be done that way? I for so long thought, well, if I buy something, I need to have a place to immediately put it. And just like you see all those plants he has on the side that he's growing up from much smaller plants, you don't have to have the immediate place to put it if you have a plan in the meantime. Like I showed you guys his irises and potting them up. Like stuff like that just never occurred to me before, to like get bulbs or rhizomes and put them in pots until I knew where to put them. And
it's a great way to save money.
A great way to save money. And if you're gonna do something like this, if you want like a really beautiful yard or garden space, it can get very expensive very fast, but that is probably one of the main ways to save money. Seeds, bulbs, rhizomes, cuttings, propagation, and grow them up yourself.
Yeah, so a lot of questions I get when I do garden tours myself is this variegated liriope right here. And all of this around this entire border came from 2 plants that were here and planted slightly back there when I moved in 3.5, 4 years ago. So
wow.
I just took and broke it up into tiny little plants and put it all around here. And it's really filled out this year, really.
Yeah, that's amazing. Look at that. I mean, and if you were to go buy started plants for this to fill up this whole space in full sizes at the store, I mean, that would just be so expensive. But with time, that's what I always tell people. If you don't want to spend money, just spend some time.
Yeah.
That's not,
a lot of time.
And often the opposite of that is if you want to save time, you have to spend money. Yeah, that's kind of the opposite. Here's one of your David Austin roses.
Yeah, that's Boscabelle.
Boscabelle. And then here's Matthew's vegetable garden. Of course, it's the end of the season.
Yeah, it's the end of the season and things are looking pretty rough. But I typically grow like kale in winter and early spring. And then this stuff right here. I wonder
who convinced you to put that in your garden.
Someone I know. I planted this at least 2 years ago and have not planted it since, and it's come back every year.
That's Malabar spinach, for those of you who are wondering. That's a
red Malabar.
That's a Roots and Refuge staple right there. And if you plant it once, you will have it until the end of time because it goes to seed and reseeds. Now this is probably the plant I'm most impressed by in your food garden.
Yeah,
your basil.
The basil is, previously I grow all my basil. I do have some lemon basil over here which smells great, but This variety is a mazel basil from Proven Winners. You can't buy the seeds, unfortunately. You'll have to ask your local garden center, or you can order it online. But this basil specifically is not supposed to change flavor when it goes to seed. And if you're a lazy vegetable gardener, like I can be sometimes, I don't always get out here to prune that in time. A few weeks ago, I actually cut this completely back to the ground almost, and it just has flushed back, and that is just a ton of basil.
That's a ton of basil. That's one plant right there.
Yeah, it's one plant. And
this variety is interesting, and it is a hybrid from Proven Winners, but it doesn't change flavor when it goes to seed, and that is a benefit, especially if you're trying to garden in a place where it's warm, because basil can go to seed so fast, and then it gets really not great tasting. And so that's a really cool thing to know about. Which, by the way, let's talk about the heat.
Yeah.
This is the frigid north. Why is it so hot?
Yeah, so it's been super hot. I was hoping, having Jess come in September, it would be a little cooler. We had a little cooler weather last September at this time, but it is currently hotter today than it is in South Carolina.
This whole time I've been here, it's been hotter here than it is in South Carolina. Yeah. I'm looking at the weather app being like, well, this isn't right. I packed like warmish clothes because I thought it was gonna be colder here, and it is definitely not. So I've been wearing my couple of cool weather or warm weather outfits over and over.
Yeah, I see a lot of y'all complain about, oh, those northerners, it's not that hot. Let me tell you, I was born and raised in Alabama. It's equally as hot up here with the humidity.
Yeah, it really is. It's hot. It was about 90 degrees the last couple of days. What's that, 32 Celsius, and it's been really warm. I'm sweating pretty good right now. Oh, look here. Here's one of Matthew's Avocado beds. So my last couple of videos have been about buying and setting these up. He's the one who introduced those to me. These are blueberries in here. He and his dad just recently built this shed, which is really awesome. And one more thing, your zinnias all look so pretty. I know their time is numbered.
Yep. I will be putting wee white hydrangeas, which are hydrangeas that stay only 2 to 3 foot tall and wide, and I have 16 to put in this little circle. And so one day this will be a tight circle of boxwood just overflowing with hydrangea blooms. So the zinnias are going to stay a couple more weeks. I will probably pull them out around the 1st of October simply because they're already getting powdery mildew. Yeah. And if they're only going to look good for a couple more weeks, I'm just going to get the hydrangeas in the ground so they can acclimate for winter.
Yep. And we're going to sneak back through here and one look at this beautiful Dahlia bed. Look at this. These are amazing. So these are actually my favorite right here. Look how tiny they are. What are these called?
Small World. They're one of the smallest little dahlias you can get, and they fit really easily into arrangements.
Those are beautiful.
Because while the big ones are pretty, you can't put many of those in an arrangement before they just kind of overcrowd and just don't look the greatest having a bunch of huge blooms in there.
And this bloom is huge. I actually sent Matthew this tuber, and it is massive.
I've seen lots of other YouTubers mention that it's just been a rough dahlia year, and I very much would repeat that. They just now started blooming significantly. A lot of these tubers were brand new this year. I've got to work on saving my tubers for November after we get our first freeze. So a lot of them were single tubers. They weren't actually clumps. And so I wasn't expecting a ton this year. I hope next year will be a little more of a show.
They're ripe.
Yeah, so I have 2 Chicago hardy fig trees that I ordered a couple weeks ago, and I thought they had died over winter. And actually Jess just found that some of them were ripe, and I didn't even know it. So we're going to be enjoying figs here soon. And right now.
And right now, I'm enjoying figs this exact moment, actually. Y'all, figs are my most favorite food on the earth. I can't believe I said that in front of this tomato. I still love tomatoes. Figs, I think I love figs more than tomatoes. Not necessarily because if I had an ample amount of both of them, that I would feel that way. But
that's not right.
Oh, that's not good. I just don't get to eat them that much. Like fresh, right off the plant figs. My sister-in-law in Arkansas had a massive fig tree, and I could go pick like a bushel every year when they were in season. But that was really the only time I got to eat them. And a fresh, ripe fig, there's not much like it. But I also love a fresh, ripe tomato. Speaking of tomatoes, I'm going to be taking several of these home, because I am a tomato beggar this year. everywhere I go that has ripe tomatoes that they're like, you're welcome to take some. I'm like, don't mind if I do. I just saw this guy hanging on back there and was like, you're coming home with me, dude. I'm going to bid you guys farewell so that we have time to shoot a video for Matthew before the light is gone. I will put the link to Matthew's channel, The Southerners Northern Garden, in the description down below so you guys can check him out. He can teach you lots of things about growing something lovely, watering it with drip irrigation, and lots of other things too. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. We bless you. Until next time.